Hey friend, Henry Flowers here, Powerful Living Outreach Ministry. We're going to do a little heart surgery today as we dive into these distinctions that we uncover with Powerful Living. We're going to examine the heart, do a little heart surgery and see what God has to say about what's going on in our hearts as it relates to Powerful Living. So if you want to contact me, if you got show ideas, you got questions or concerns, like today I'll be responding from a Q&A from a listener about some of the past podcasts. So I'll do one question today as time permits. We'll see how we do. But if you got questions or concerns, you got show ideas, you want to find out when we have an empowerment sessions here in Cincinnati, our number, you can call us at 513-404-7793. That's 513-404-7793. Send us a text message. If you're still leaving voicemails, you can do that too, but just send us a text message and say, hey, I got this question, I got this show idea, blah, blah, blah. If you want to send an email, you can do that, powerfulliving2022@gmail.com. Right? You can check all of that out and send us an email there. Also, just be advised, if you're in the Cincinnati area, we're going to be having in-person services, in-person empowerment session, not services, typical church expression, right? But we'll be having empowerment sessions the first Tuesday of every month. But next month, we'll be starting on October the 10th. I got a lot of stuff going on. So on October the 10th, we're meeting at 7 p.m., 5616 Wolf Pen, Pleasant Hill Road. And in the Cincinnati area, just right off of 275, right? Just less than a mile from Milford High School, Milford Junior High School. We'll be in the upper room of General Dentistry, 7 p.m. sharp. We're going to have our first in-person empowerment session. We'll be sharing a lot of testimonies of people that I've been working with Powerful Living in the Cincinnati area. They'll be sharing their testimonies, see how God's made transformations in their lives as a result of Powerful Living and uncovering these distinctions. And that's going to be great. You really want to be a part of this. And I'm glad to be here on the YouTube airwaves. You can feel free wherever you find podcasts. If you want the podcast instead of the video, you go to wherever you find podcasts. You just look up Powerful Living, Henry Flowers, and feel free to share, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications. I want to get my viewership up and everything. That would be great. And just give me some feedback. Comment on the videos. Leave a review. That would be good. Tell me what you've been learning from these distinctions that we're talking about in creating powerful living for the believer. Because that's the goal. You know, there's a life that God wants believers to live. And it's really going to be difficult for us to bring the lost to Jesus Christ when we're not living with much power on our own. Like, people respond to power. They respond to big things happening. That's why there's such an uproar, and this, things are really happening at Colorado University, and Coach Deion Primetime Sanders and those boys that he's coaching, those young men that he's transforming their lives, because there's something powerful going on. You know, Coach Prime is an awesome motivator. He's transforming people's lives. He's knocking down doors for many people in the coaching business that might look like him, that might be looking for opportunities and maybe have been denied for years. He's knocking down doors. He's transforming people's lives. So there's no reason that he gets on the set and talks about his shades, and then all of a sudden he sells $1.8 million worth of shades because Stephen A. Smith got some, and now this person got some, and this rap artist and this person, and I'm ordering mine too. That's right, because I love what he's doing, because I love power showing up in people's lives. And I love Coach Sanders because he never fails to give God the glory for what's happening in his life and at Colorado and what he did at Jackson. And so, you got a lot of power going on that attracts people. And when you start developing power in your life and you start seeing changes in your life, man, you want more. Because I was the same way when I first began developing these principles and things like that. And I saw my life transform. I wanted to tell somebody. And mostly because I was called to tell somebody. God's called me to this platform to declare the works of God. And then once you put it into your life and you start seeing things transform, that is how people find you attractive. That's how people find your lifestyle attractive. What is it that separates you from anybody else? There's a lot of different faiths and things to believe. What separates the faith in Jesus Christ from being Hindu or from being atheist or, being Muslim? There are things that separate, and sometimes if you're not able to relay those things, then it could be a problem when it comes to us as believers saying, hey, this is what I did to win somebody to Christ, or these are the friends that I've gathered toward myself. Like I got this friend or that friend because of the way I've been to them. See, these are powerful living principles, whereas it's like, if you want to transform somebody's life, you serve them. And usually the best way to serve somebody else and transform somebody else's life is to have a transformed life. Yeah. That's it. So on October the 10th, Powerful Living Sessions will begin here in Cincinnati. Wherever you are, if you want to have an empowerment session, you contact us. And as long as there's at least 2 people, we coming. We don't care what night it is. I have Powerful Living Sessions and empowerment sessions on Tuesday nights because I don't want to interfere with anybody going to their church, because this is an additional training opportunity. I'm not trying to take anybody from their church. I'm trying to be an enhancement to your church. So Tuesday nights, you ain't got to worry about missing Bible study. Definitely got to worry about missing Sunday service. But you can come here and let's go over these distinctions that you learned on Sunday. And let's learn how to activate these things in your life. Because once they start going, once you start activating and operating with power in your life, it's going to be an addiction. You're going to be addicted. You're going to be addicted to it. Hey, I want to pray more. Whoa, I prayed and God answered that prayer. Like really, like the thing I prayed about is what happened. And how do I know? Because I wrote it down like we teach you. Like you wrote it down and you were specific in your prayer and you chronicled it and you put it on a little sticky tab. And then how many months later or how many weeks later or possibly even days later, that thing happened and you remember it because you wrote it down. That's power. You're building a track record of God's success in your life. God's shown up with power in your life and you're tracking these things. And that's how you'll be able to share your testimony with other people. This is your story. And this is just one of the principles that we talk about and teach in our empowerment sessions. Chronicling victories in your life. That's what the Bible is. The Bible is a compilation of people's life stories. It's how God showed up in their lives. And people were able to chronicle it. Other people chronicled it. The things that Jesus did, people wrote about and talked about. And that created power all the way through history, even until today, 2,000 years later. And so for you, when you begin to chronicle your life and see and write down and see how God showed up specifically in your life, then you can tell somebody else. And then sharing the gospel becomes less fearful, because really all you're doing is testifying. You're telling people what happened. You do it. Go out there and find a restaurant that you like, and see, don't you go and evangelize that thing. You got to tell somebody, girl, have you gone down the street and had this chicken over here? Oh, girl, listen, this seafood place over here is thebomb.com. Listen, bro, you got to try this place over there. I got these shoes at this low cost and they're real high quality shoes. You be talking about that thing because power showed up in your life. You got something that you enjoyed and at a tremendous value, and it enhanced your life in some way, and then you have to tell somebody else. Evangelism and powerful living and bringing people to Christ is the same way. You let God show up in your life, and then you go and tell somebody, and you have these things in your memory because you've written it down. This is powerful living. These are the things that I teach, and there's ways that you can implement these strategies and just watch your life transform. I'm telling you what I know. I'm encouraging you about having a transformed life, because I have a transformed life. And it's not hard, folks, but it is what we've been called to do. No, God will never call you to do anything that he will not empower you to do. He empowers you to do it. So I have something that I want to respond to today from a listener who sends in, and this is a really, really great question. I thrive on this thing because this shows that not only is powerful living showing up in someone's life who's a listener, they're practicing these principles and putting them in practice, right? Practicing and putting them in practice. It's just, you're doing it today and you're continuing to do it. But also, this person is saying, hey, am I doing this the right way? Am I doing this right? And this is about a heart check. So here we go as we jump into the subject. This listener says, things have been happening in my life concerning powerful living, blah, blah, blah. I want to know if me wanting to confront someone is spiritual. Is it, I see. Okay, so what the listener is saying is she's having a difficult relationship and she put the person in their place and said, listen, we're not doing this. We're not doing this via text. If you want to have a conversation, you can call me. And she hasn't gotten a phone call. And is my desire for her to call me so I can put her in her place verbally a godly desire? This is really important. This is really good. This is about establishing a heart examination. Like, this is where you take a look at what you want to do, and you're asking, so the listener is basically asking, is this a God thing? So this reminds me of, and I'm going to jump right in and answer this question. It's very good. This reminds me of the Karen confrontation, because I got a lot of feedback from that podcast. And if you haven't listened to that podcast, you'll be very interested to check that one out. It's one where I introduced this idea that, putting someone in their place verbally and standing up to someone and possibly cussing their behind out is possibly not an ungodly thing. It's amazing how people think this idea, well, Jesus says, turn the other cheek. And I'm with you. Believers should not be brawlers. They should be people of peace. Yes, and sometimes you got to go to war in order to create peace. When it comes to standing up for who you are and setting boundaries in your life, because that's one of the principles in powerful living is setting boundaries. People don't get to treat me any old kind of way. Yeah, I get it. Turn the other cheek. Okay, Jesus says if somebody slaps you on one side of your face, turn and offer to them the other cheek. So we got to take a look at that and see if that means let them abuse you again. It might, but it might also mean, he says, offer them the other cheek. He didn't say let them slap you the second time. He says offer them. And I made an offer to Karen, but I didn't let her offend me again. And it turned out quite different. It's about what's going on in the heart in that moment. And so he says, and also, so he didn't say, let them slap you again. He said, offer them the other cheek. But also, even if you take it a step further and say, yeah, well, that means let them slap you twice. Well, okay, if you think that means let them slap you twice and you want to get slapped twice, go ahead and get slapped twice. But just understand, from my perspective, I only got two cheeks. I only got two. And I think after that second one, you probably definitely will not like my response after that second one. If you think that's what it means. I ain't offering nobody a chance to hit me twice. They hit me once, depending on how I feel, and depending on what day I've had and things like that, they might get away with the one, maybe. But the idea is, does God call you as a believer to be a rug for somebody to walk all over you? Does that feel powerful? That's the first question. Does that feel powerful? You got somebody in your life who is, I don't care whether they're friend or family, you got somebody in your life who just always saying something mean and dumb to you. They are a controller. They are a manipulator. They're selfish. They never want to have a conversation about how they offended you. and you contact them and say, hey, this happened and I didn't like it. I was a little offended. I wanted to talk to you about it. And now they going off. They going off the deep end about this is you. This is what you always do. And you don't never blah, 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 blah. It's just all about them. And they take no time out to acknowledge how you might have been offended. Like, you got to ask yourself, is that somebody that you want in your life? Is that person a good friend? And that's what this listener is talking about. She's been in a relationship. This is who she is. And she just decided that she's not a good friend. After counseling, working through these distinctions and powerful living, decided that, yeah, the person is not a good friend and she wanted to cut her off. Boom. Gave her an opportunity to have a phone call. Quit all this text messaging. Let's have a phone call so we can actually, you can hear my tone. You can possibly hear where anger is not, because Lord knows you can read something that's different than how somebody might actually be coming across. You know that that's true, right? Don't you? Shake your head with me. Yes. Okay. There's some things that you can't convey via text. And so this person wouldn't take the phone call and is constantly wanting to text. And she just took a stand, which this is good. So taking a stand means you don't get to continue to keep texting me about something and having battles via text. I have a way to block that on my phone. See, I can block a phone call and I can block a text. You can silence it or whatever. And so this person is putting up boundaries. And so what they want to know now is their desire to have a phone call in order so she can get this person straight. Is that a fleshly desire, an ungodly desire? So let's look into what the scriptures say. So we got this idea about if somebody offends you, turn the other cheek. I explained that to you already. Let's delve into the timing, because timing is very important. So I'm reminded of my confrontation with Karen, and I think it's very beautiful of God when I went into the story about David. When David heard Goliath off in the distance, just shouting curses and blaspheming the name of God, he got offended. He was offended at this Philistine, and it says, who is this uncircumcised Philistine? And he was railing and cursing their God, the God of Jehovah God. And David got offended. He says, are y'all going to sit by and let this man do this? Y'all ain't going to go over there? Where's my sling? I'll handle it. So in the moment, there was a righteous indignation that rose up in David. And he says, I got to go handle this. And I believe that was inspired by God, because God's glory came out of it as a result. So I think the advice that I would have to this listener is just examine your heart. Take the time to examine your heart and see where your heart is. Are you looking forward to just telling somebody off? And so they can get this work. They about to get this work. I'm going to put this work on them. And so, lash out with your tongue, because now, you've developed these principles and you got this strength and skill. And now you got to the point where you actually are able to employ it. And you want to possibly put this person in her place. So for me, I think when it came to Karen, that confrontation, and many people were surprised at my response. For me, that wasn't pre-planned, premeditated. That's the first step. Is this opportunity to lash out at or to push back at somebody, is it premeditated? Because it's possible that could be pride. And we really want to be careful about how pride can enter the heart. The Bible says that the heart of man is deceitful above all things. Who can know it? There's a struggle to know the heart of man. It can fool you. You can think that you're doing God a service, but you're actually doing evil. And so you sit back and examine your heart. And if time has passed, then it's possible that this way you want to respond to this person is beginning to become premeditated. Like she wants her to call, because she's planning on putting her in her place. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but this is something to check. So number one, check your heart. And what is the intent of the thing that you want to say to her? Is it just to make sure that she understands that there's a boundary that you've established in your life and you will not be treated this way again? And if there is an opportunity for you and her to continue in friendship and relationship, it's going to be on the basis of mutual respect, and you don't get to do this to me anymore. That's called setting a boundary. Very important. If that had happened in real time, then I would say, okay, that's probably something that's instinctual. It came out of you, like in the moment with Karen. I didn't plan that, and actually gave her 2 opportunities to be cordial, because I was being cordial. And so it wasn't something that was pre-planned. And that could be an indicator that it's not fleshly or carnal. But if you got some time and you got this thing waiting to unleash on somebody, you may want to examine that. I don't know. I'm just saying, pray about it, right? It may be that God is, next time they call, if they call, make this happen. The person hadn't called yet. She said she hadn't received a call. So, I've had people, I love what T.D. Jakes said. T.D. Jakes said, man, I have the gift of goodbye. And I've had the opportunity to tell people goodbye. People just show up in your life sometimes and they don't mean you well. They just always got something negative to say or do. And there's not anywhere in Scripture where God said just welcome people into your life and just allow any and everybody access to you. I don't think you are required to do that. You see, being in a relationship with me is a privilege if I think highly of myself. Now, here's where I talk about pride of the heart, because the Bible does say, do not think more highly of yourselves than you ought to think. But it didn't say don't think highly of yourself. There's a distinction there. And this is what we're talking about when we're talking about relationships and you being able to guard your heart. You got to set up boundaries, sister. You got to set up boundaries, bro. Not everybody deserves access to you depending on what they bring. Do you care about yourself? Do you think highly of yourself? Do you like being healthy and having peace in your life and having stress-free thinking going on in your life? Listen, a lot of that can be dealt with concerning the people you hang around. If you'll read my book, the 3rd chapter, and the 3rd point in my book is new friends. Maybe you examine the circle of friends that you have and you start doing some inventory and start checking stuff out. Some outdated relationships. Folks that don't mean you well, maybe sometimes you might have to tell them off because they've been dumping trash into your heart for how many years? And every time they call you, they got something negative to say. Every time you get with them, you feel less encouraged when you leave them. That's not a good relationship if you say powerful living is what you want. Jesus says the peace that I give you is not like the world gives you, because the peace that I give you lasts. It endures. And that's what I want. I don't want worldly peace. Worldly peace really equates to just being happy in this moment, and it's circumstantial. And this happens, I'm happy. And when something else happens and I ain't like, now I'm mad. Now I'm sad for the next 15 hours or 15 days or 15 months until something else good happens. Now I'm happy again for a few minutes. And you see the up and down? But when Jesus gives you peace, there's a continual thing. It's a spiritual, perpetual thing that cannot be taken away or changed by circumstances, because it's an eternal peace that came from Christ. And so this idea that people come into your life and they just get to take away your peace, I say to that, nope. I have the gift of goodbye. I got several numbers in my contacts list where they are blocked. You don't get to say certain things to me just willy-nilly. You don't get to send me whole book messages on text message, 3,000 and 4,000 characters, and quote, go off on me via text message. No, pick up the phone, talk to me, say it to my face, so you can actually see that there's a person behind this vitriol that you're trying to throw, and then you can get my response in real time, and that there be no mistake that could be made via text. That's powerful living. So you address the giant face to face. And so this person is saying, okay, I want to address her face to face, or at least voice to voice. Is that carnal? So the first thing is, just examine your heart. And if time has passed and this person hadn't given you the opportunity to do it in person, it may not be God's will, and you just let it go. But just hold fast to the boundary that you've set. You see, that's the important thing, that you hold fast to the boundary. I don't necessarily have cuss you out, cocked and loaded, and the next time I see you, I'm gonna let it rip. No, I got a boundary locked and loaded. And if you cross that boundary again, then you're gonna get this work. And it's just me letting you know I can't go for that. No can do. That's right, I went there. So this opportunity to examine your heart goes right here. I love this. If you have the desire to begin reading your Bible or reading it more, because this is one of the things that we teach in Powerful Living, is this idea that you know God by learning the scriptures, learning about God, learning the stories, learning about Jesus, learning about who he is. You don't get to know God without knowing the scriptures. And you got to get in there, get into the scriptures, develop a pattern, just one verse a day. While you're driving to work, that 20-minute ride to work, which is the average ride to work for anybody, and then you turn on the Bible app and it reads the Bible to you that little time. Instead of turning on the radio, you get in there and you turn on the Bible app and you listen to it and you learn about Jesus. You learn about who God is, learn about what God likes and what God doesn't like. These are the things that you grab a hold of and learn and grow in as you read the scriptures. And so one of the things that I encourage people to start with is the Psalms and Proverbs. They are jam-packed with daily living, daily situations, human feelings, human struggles, wisdom for the ages, wisdom for practical living. All of those things are in the Psalms and Proverbs. You got to get in there and jump in. And so this is one Psalm chapter. This is David talking, King David, and Lord knows David went through his struggles and things in life. So Psalm chapter 139. Let's take a look at this today. Psalm 139. Verse 23 and 24. And David says, I'm reading from the New Living Translation, search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. He says, Lord, search, do inventory and deal with the things that I'm anxious about, right? And listen to this next part. Point out anything in me that offends you and lead me along the path of everlasting life. That's what I would say to our listener about this situation. You make sure that you get in the closet and you just declare this out loud over and over again, as many times as you need to, on this matter. Lord, this is a person, and we've been friends for a while. I think I need to cut this relationship off. This is what's happening. Lord, will you search my heart on this matter? Lord, and this is how the prayer sounds. Lord, I want to do right by people, and this person is just on my nerves, Lord. I submit myself right now. I'm going to be quiet for a few minutes, Lord. I'm going to listen to you in this time, in my closet, in my bedroom, wherever I might be. Lord, I'm going to give you this opportunity to search my heart about this thing that I'm anxious about. Please do it, Lord. I want to do right. Lord, I want to treat people right. I don't want to treat people wrong. Lord, I'm giving you a chance to search my heart. Let me know if my heart toward this person is good and righteous, or if I need to repent because I'm full of pride. That's what the prayer sounds like. And you just sit with it. And God will show you. He will deal with your heart. He'll show up and give you a peace about whatever it is you want to do. Whether it's going forward and dealing with that person directly, he will give you a peace about it. And you'll sit straight up on the bed with joy in your heart about yes. And you'll feel empowered about this confrontation. And there'll be a yes to it. And there won't be any hatred or angst behind it. It'll be like, yes, I'm standing up for my soul. I'm standing up for myself. That person in myself that's been bullied all those years, and I ain't about to take it no more because Jesus said I don't have to. I'm about to stand up for myself, and God gives you a peace about it and says, yes, stand up for yourself. Do it. It's good. And now you're standing in God's power because he's going to give you the power and the words to do it. And on the other end, it may be the listener that God says, be silent. Don't say a word. Let them go. Let them be who they are. Let them alone. Block them. And you get energy about blocking them. And as soon as I'm telling you, I've been through this. When you push the block button, and it asks you, do you want to block this person? And you say, yes. Brother, sister, you have just exercised power, and that power will course through your veins and you will feel it. People don't get access to me unless I say so. That's how you get your peace. And so you're putting your heart before God. It's like open heart surgery. You're opening up your heart and you say, Lord, point out anything in me that offends you. I dare you to pray that prayer on a daily basis. That's what David said. Point out anything in me that offends you. Psalm 139, verse 24. Point out anything in me that offends you. And lead me along the path of everlasting life. God will honor your request. That's why he allowed it to be in the scriptures. Because he wants you to see the example that he set in the life of David. All of these thousands of years ago that David lived, and now his life is chronicled for you. The Bible says the scriptures were written for our examples. And you take this example and you do the same thing. This is heart surgery. You open up your heart and say, Lord, search my heart, oh God. I don't like this situation. I don't like this person and how they are treating me. I'm not opposed to the person. I don't like how they're treating me. Do I need to deal with this person directly, or do I need to just block the person? Lord, show me. And you just sit there with that prayer and you be quiet and you just listen and you wait for the peace of God that passes all understanding about one or the other. Yeah. He may tell you to just be quiet and let it alone. And you can be at peace with that, because many times God is dealing with people on your behalf. You better hear this, listener. Many times, how you want to respond is nothing to compare to how deliciously beautiful God's judgment on their life will be. If you just leave it alone, let God handle it. Because God knows how to deal with them. If they mess with you, God, I'm telling you what I know, friend. God deals with those who oppose his people. Maybe I should do a podcast and tell people what happened when I was in that courtroom. And the judge, many of you know I share my story. I don't have any problem sharing my personal stories, because God has caused me and ordained me to put my life on display. That's what ministry is. My personal life is on display. And I talk to you about my failures, and I talk to you about my divorce in the past. But I'm telling you, you don't know how it would feel, and I hope you never experience it, you're in a divorce. This is one person. We're trying to settle this thing, and things got crazy. And all of a sudden, the judge from the bench during one of our proceedings began to give legal advice to my ex's counsel. Yep. Did you hear what I just said to you? He began to give legal advice to her counsel. on what to do next. Her attorney said she didn't know what to do next. And the judge gave her advice. This is what you need to do. You need to do this. And I quote, and I may be getting myself in trouble for saying this, but blah, blah, blah. And he went on. That's what he said. Man, in that moment, y'all, I felt small. I felt outnumbered. I felt attacked, and all of these things, as you can imagine. When people say the justice system is not set up for a certain people group, man, I felt all of that in that moment. But you know what else I felt? I felt my soul look up to God and make eye contact with the Almighty God. And my soul said, Lord, you see me. You see what's happening. You are always watching me. The same God that allowed me to survive the streets of Detroit, the same God that allowed me to survive a head-on collision, the same God that allowed me to survive the Desert Storm War is watching me. And Lord, you got this. I should do a podcast and tell people what happened to that judge. Ooh, woo. Ooh, woo. And this is a cliffhanger. And I know you're going to hate me because I ain't going to tell you today because I don't want to get too far off subject. But I'm just telling you, friend, believer, God got your back. And there may be opportunities where, like David, he gives you the power to confront the giant. And he says, yes, go and do it. Run over there to the giant. And it may be an opportunity. He says, be at peace, my child, rest. And when he says be at peace and rest, trust me, he got your back. And the judgment and wrath that God can deliver is so much more delicious than what you can think of. Because see, you're going to get caught. If you go out and try to seek revenge, you'll get caught. God ain't going to get caught. They ain't going to ever catch God with no closed circuit camera. Ain't nobody going to be sitting over there with their phone recording God doing something that he shouldn't be doing. Nope. That ain't going to happen. But it'll happen to you. That's why you tell the Lord, examine your heart. Lord, this is what I want to do next to this person. Examine my heart, Lord. Lead me in the path of righteousness. If what I'm about to do ain't righteous, Lord, give me peace about it. And I'm allowing you to check me. That is a submitted heart to the things of God. The backbiting bishop, by the way, the backbiting bishop still has my name in his mouth. This is unbelievable. I don't know how it is that I'm spending so much rent-free space in his mind. How am I taking up so much rent-free space in his mind? I heard from another person who wanted to contact me. Hey, Henry, I heard from you a couple of years. I know what happened. You know, you had to resign, this kind of thing. How you doing? And I met with the person because they called me and I said, hey, brother, what's going on? Blah, blah, blah. This is what's going on. And then he mentioned that the backbiting bishop mentioned to him when he told him that he was meeting with me. And now this guy telling him stuff about me. And I'm saying, this dude constantly got my name in his mouth. Crazy. God will deal with it. Because one of the things that God hates is schism among the brethren. It's in the scriptures. You better read that. Schism among the brethren. And he also says, do not put an occasion of stumbling in your brother's way. And more than that, because the backbiting bishop is a minister, as I am, been in ministry longer than I am, you better listen to this. The scriptures say, woe be unto you pastors who lead my sheep astray. That's a warning, one of the strongest warning in scriptures. And I know that God is going to deal with him. And I asked God, Lord, do I do this? You saw the podcast. If you haven't, see the podcast on the backbiting bishops and see what I did. And the Lord gave me peace to stand down. And I have peace. I'm just actually sorry that he didn't have peace. And it's obvious that he didn't have peace because he keep bringing my name up to other people. And it's like, wow, this guy really didn't have peace because he know he did me wrong. And listener, I'm telling you, when somebody's doing you wrong, two things are going to happen. God will either give you the strength to go out and do something about it and confront that person like David confronted the giant, or God will give you the peace to let it alone, sit back and watch him work. I saw God's hand in the life of that judge. Ooh-wee. I will see God's hand in the life of the backbiting bishop. I just will, because this is who God is. And friend, I'm telling you, when you go into your closet and pray about this opportunity, about this person who's just toxic in your life, and you allow the Lord to say, examine your heart, search me, oh God, point out anything in me that offends you, and lead me along the path of everlasting life concerning this person. When you do that, and when you open yourself up for God to judge your heart, my friend, you are on your way to powerful living. And God is well pleased when you do that. Henry Flowers here, Powerful Living Outreach Ministry. I ain't going nowhere. I'm coming back.